I'll walk through time, Makayla Chamzuk.
As you walk through the old gate on the family farm I live on, the maple trees bend over and gently sway in the fall breeze, making a perfect frame for an old chicken coop that at one time was a home. You walk a little further and there is an old granary that holds memories I will never truly be aware of. But the most incredible sight is an old hip roof barn that is nearly 100 years old. It stands 30 feet long and 30 feet tall and 80 feet long and has the biggest doors I've ever seen. Inside still hangs treasures, memories, and a legacy spanning 5 generations that I am proud to be a part of. Madam Chairman, honorable judges, fellow 4-H members, ladies and gentlemen. When Bill 6 was introduced this past fall, many emotions were introduced with it. It really got me thinking. This past fall were introduced with it. Farmers and their families are very protective of their land and the heritage it was built on. It really got me thinking of how fortunate I am to be exposed to the farm life and how proud I am of the family farm I was born and raised on. As I took a walk through the yard last fall, I could tell this industry was not easy. My family has lived through a depression, diseases, many droughts, destruction, and even death. The farm that I talk about and am so proud of sits proudly on Highway 44 near Westlock and was named Ansborough Farm after a district in Lurgan, Ireland where my family came from. When I search the internet on Lurgan, Ireland, I can see some likeness between that area and the farm. You can tell my family was proud of their Irish roots, and naming their homeland after the place where they came from was one of the many ways I can tell. My great-great-grandpa purchased the land and commuted back and forth from Edmonton and spent the summers developing the 2 quarters. When it was time to build the old hip roof barn, it was built solely from wood pellets that was given to the family from the place my great-great-grandpa worked. As you can imagine, it took years to build the barn, many weekends of friends, family, and even people they didn't know working together to construct this masterpiece. Something like this would never fly with Bill 6. Over the years, the barn has come to a lean, but the adventures us grandchildren have had inside those walls are priceless. Like a hidden door, if you pick the right one, will lead you up 25 steps to a loft that is inhabited by a colony of birds. But if those walls could talk, that barn would be a bestseller. On the west side of the barn is a long line of tie stalls for the Clydesdales that find their very own stall each night. Over one of them hangs a sign by one side only. In my great-granny's beautiful writing, it says Willie. For the lead horse in my great-grandma's six-team hitch horse. As he traveled with them across Canada. I've heard the stories, and my imagination is in overdrive. Thinking of my own grandma riding on top of these big horses at chore time, holding onto the mane as young as 2 years old. Nobody was off duty on this farm back in the day. Working hard was not expected. It was necessary to survive. It was common sense and hard work ethic that helped the family farm survive, not a government-written Bill 6 put into legislature. The old binder and thrashing machine sit on the farm breaking down from our harsh winters and hot summers. But when I look at it, I remember the pictures of the family surrounding it, the horses pulling it, and the hours of hard work it took to feed those animals all winter long. There is an old 660 case combine buried in the trees that may be a big pile of metal to others, but to my family, it meant so much more. It took years to save up to buy that first combine that could be driven and not pulled. I can only imagine the pride my great-great-grandpa had as he drove it around that first harvest. The very first car to ever grace the family farm still sits on the farm today. Old generations have played in that old Pontiac, imagining how life truly looked out its windows. Out back, hidden by tall grass, is the wagon that those 6 beautiful horses pulled at the Royal Toronto Fair in Ontario. It traveled 2,300 miles in a Canadian rail boxcar. Again, friends, family, and complete strangers were among the group promoting agriculture. Those stories are for a whole other speech. I can't imagine the changes my own grandma has seen in her lifetime. Her granny was an important part of her life, and she spent many years listening to her childhood in the early 1900s. We spend so much time rushing through life, not taking time to sit and treasure the memories and soak in the details. These stories that Grandma tells me are priceless, that nobody can take away from any of us, the dreams and hard work that make us who we are. As I said, Bill 6 truly did take many on a journey of emotions, but for me, it truly made me thankful for what I am surrounded by and the history contained within 5 generations and a short walk through time.